So a few days ago, the guys in my Patreon were all, "Hey, it's Ginny D's Dragon Week. You should make a dragon video." And I was like, I have been thinking about a Draconic Sorcerer build. So the guys in the Patreon helped me polish it up. And without further ado, let's jump right in and take a look at the Gold Kobold. So before we begin, I'm just going to throw the build quickly up on the screen. One simple page with all of the stats and choices and the spell selection. That way you can refer to this part of the video and easily make this build at your own table. Please keep watching the video though. I keep explaining why we make the choices that we do and yada yada yada. So the Gold Kobold is a Draconic Sorcerer blaster build. It has a very impressive array of AoE options, and it has strong single target damage as well. The RP concept is a celestial gold dragon descendant, a kobold, who channels his innate draconic energies to devastating effect. We are going to be pounding this concept throughout our build selections here. The stat array is standard for a sorcerer, with the exception of putting our 16 in dex instead of con. So we're going to start with a strength of 8, a dex of 16, a con of 14, an intelligence of 8, a wisdom of 10, and a charisma of 17. We are setting up for a good AC with draconic resilience, and that's actually a nice little benefit to the subclass. We don't need to dip for armor. We're going to have a competitive AC just with our class abilities. We get an extra hit point from Draconic Resilience, which partially makes up for the fact that we're only taking Con 14, and it gives us a little bump to Initiative, which is nice because this build likes to go first. More on that in a minute. The skills I chose are optional other than Arcana, although I do think these make sense. I went with Perception, Arcana, Intimidation, and Stealth. But other than Arcana, they're optional. Choose what you like. Arcana is necessary to enable scroll creation, because low-level scrolls are pretty cheap and easy to make in Dungeons & Dragons 2024, so we are going to take advantage. We are taking Herbalism Kit so that we can crank out, relatively cheap potions of healing, and we went with Alert as our origin feat. Because like I said, this build likes to go first. The enemies will often be most tactically grouped for you at the start of the engagement, and if you act before your allies, then you're not going to have to really worry about friendly fire. That said, Alert is not critical to the build, so if you really want to take another origin feat, feel free. I think Lucky, Tough, and Musician might make sense, but it's up to you. I do think Alert is the best feat for this build. For our species, we are going to be reskinning Aasimar as a kobold, since, there's no kobold official yet, and this build is using just pure 2024 Player's Handbook material. We had to reskin one of the current races as a kobold, and I looked at Dragonborn first, since that's kind of like obvious, but it turns out to not really work that well because Dragonborn can't be small, and kobolds are small. And it turns out their species abilities don't really synergize with the class abilities of the Draconic Sorcerer. So I looked at all the others. I do think Aasimar is a pretty good fit. Aasimar have a similar fly speed to the Dragonborn, right? A once-a-day wings thing that allows you to fly for a while. And Aasimar can be small, and they have dark vision. So, kind of feeling like a kobold here. And the resistances do synergize with the subclass abilities, and I do think there's some RP synergy here, because we are role-playing a gold dragon descendant, and the lore of gold dragons has them quite strongly associated with celestials. So I think this works. We are choosing to go small, because Aasimar can be either small or medium, and we are role-playing a kobold here. If you prefer, you can go medium if you're trying to do a different role-play skinning, but we're going small. And small is probably better if you're not using heavy weapons, because you can mount medium creatures, which puts mounting mastiffs and ponies and stuff on the table, and it's only one size reduction away from being tiny, which can also be tactically advantageous. So small for our Gold Kobold. Then we get Dark Vision, which is always a plus. We get Healing Hands and Light Bearer, which, they're ribbons, but they might come in handy every now and then. We get Necrotic and Radiant Resistance, which is fantastic. First of all, getting 2 resistances is insane because it's actually quite difficult to acquire resistances in this game. So to start with 2 is just fantastic. And both of them are exotic energy types, which are not covered by Absorb Elements. Admittedly, Absorb Elements has yet to be published, so we technically aren't going to be using it, but I presume that it's going to be released here soon since it's such a staple in Dungeons & Dragons, and once we have it, it's going to cover all of the elemental energies, and we have resistance to these 2 exotic energies, so it's really nice. We also get Celestial Revelation, which comes online at level 3, and that basically boils down to a once-a-day fly speed plus some ribbons. It's the fly speed that really matters. So that is the setup. Let us jump into level 1. We are taking Sorcerer 1, and we do not dip on this build. We're going straight through Sorcerer 20 because I looked at a few dips. I didn't really think they added much, and by staying in Sorcerer, we just keep piling up sorcery points and getting our class abilities as scheduled. So at level 1, yeah, we're pretty fragile. We're a level 1 caster. We are going to try and kite and take cover because we don't want to get anywhere close to enemies. We are very fragile. And do note that Healing Hands is semi-decent at level 1. It just gets worse from here, so, enjoy it while you're at level 1. And notably, we will be using a net. We are going to carry a few nets around because nets are very powerful in 2024. I have done a deep dive video on the net, which I will link in the description below. Definitely check it out if you want to see how good it is. But it's going to be very good for us. It's going to allow us no resource crowd control. And we are pretty good at deploying it because we have a dex of 16. So the net is going to do a lot of work for us. It's a really nice option when we're out of spell slots or trying to conserve spell slots. Then we get innate sorcery. And this is a really fantastic add to the 2024 Sorcerer kit. I mean, getting advantage to attacks and +1 to your save DC is excellent mechanically, and so very welcome for a Sorcerer to be able to do this from the jump. We are starting with a stack of cantrips. We get 5 to begin. We are going to pick up Blade Ward because it's a very useful precast option to buff our AC. We will skin this as Dragon Scales, and it's going to be a nice no-resource defense for us throughout the entirety of our career. We are picking up Minor Illusion, because I think this might be the best cantrip in the game. It can notably create cover in battle. And especially since we're small, it'll be pretty easy for us to create the illusion of, say, a barrel around us, and it has an open top, so we can poke our head out when we want to make attacks, and then crouch back down so that we are behind total cover. Illusory cover, but unless they investigate or whatever, they're not going to know and they're not going to target you. So very, very powerful defense. Minor Illusion, really nice for a kiter, caster, and black line guy. And it's also got a ton of utilities. So really, really fantastic cantrip. Like I said, it's the best one in the game, I think. See my deep dive video on Major Image, where I talk about illusions and explain how good Minor Illusion is. Then we're taking Firebolt as our staple attack cantrip. It's got the longest range of 120, and it has the highest damage at a D10 damage dice. And of course, we're going to skin this and pretty much every other spell and ability that we have as a breath weapon, because we are doing the whole dragon thing. We are picking up Ray of Frost as well, just to give us another attack cantrip with a different damage type, and it's got a great rider. That -10 to move is really fantastic. Not in isolation, but in combination with your teammates, because if they have move debuffs like the slow weapon mastery, or the monk tried to stun them and they succeeded on their save, but even when you succeed on a stun, your move is halved, right? There's just a bunch of different move debuffs in this game, and you've got one of them. If you can combo it with your team, that can be very, very effective. We got Light as a species ribbon, and that might help our allies sometimes. We probably aren't going to use it all that much. It does have a pretty cool application where you cast it on a rock and then you drop a rock down a hole, and that way you can see what's down there and see how deep it is and stuff. So other than that, you're probably never going to use Light. And then we get 2 actual spell selections. And because we're blasters, we are going with Burning Hands to give us a, albeit weak, it's an AoE option, so we might potentially get 2 or 3 creatures into the area of effect and get good value that way. And we are taking Witch Bolt as a devastating single target blast. I mean, for level 1, this does enormous damage, right? 2d12, and it's even pretty good at levels 2 and 3. We are dropping it at level 4, but for these first 3 levels, it's going to be a real banger. It also allows you to inflict bonus action damage on following turns, even if you miss the initial attack. So that is really sweet. It weaponizes our bonus action, and there's not much else competing for our concentration right now. So Burning Hands and Witch Bolt are going to be like our go-to big attack spells. We only have 2 slots at this level, but we want to make them count, and I think both of these are pretty impressive. And other than that, we are going to be kiting and tossing cantrips. Moving into level 2, we are getting Font of Magic to bring our sorcery points online. Yay! And we get a couple of different meta magics. We are going to be taking Careful Spell, because eliminating friendly fire from our AoE spells is invaluable. It's actually one of the featured abilities of this build. We're going to be using it throughout our entire career. It's really fantastic. And we are taking Transmuted Spell to evade resistances and immunities, which is another critical add for us. One of the reasons that we're such an effective blaster is not only can we eliminate friendly fire, we can also change the element type. That is really fantastic for a blaster. It really evades the main weaknesses of blasting, and so we are already superior blasters. Note that neither of these meta magic options are really huge draws on your sorcery points. A lot of times you're not even going to need them. So we are going to have the sorcery points to convert into spell slots for more blasting. So not only do we have effective blasts, we have a lot of them. We also get to add 2 spells, and since our first level spells were offensive, we are going to go for a maneuverability option with Expeditious Retreat, and a defensive option in adding Shield, the classic caster defense that we wanted to add at level 1, but with only 2 slots I decided to get our offense first, and we're going to take Shield at level 2. And so while we're still pretty fragile, at least we'll be able to avoid getting hit sometimes. And all we have to do is survive until level 3, where our AC actually becomes somewhat respectable. So at level 3, first of all, our species ability Celestial Revelation comes online, so that brings our 1 time a day fly speed online. And flight is always good, but for us it's especially good because we have certain cone area of effects, and if you're flying and shooting a cone downwards, it actually turns into a diameter. So, for example, a 30-foot cone would turn into a 30-foot diameter if it comes from above, or a 15-foot radius, and that is a bigger area than a cone, and you're going to be able to get more targets. So flight is very good for us. We also get Draconic Resilience, and that's going to give us a respectable AC of 16 because they have that really cool ability where their AC is 10 plus Dex plus Charisma mod. So we are at 16, and it's going to rise throughout our career. And we get an extra hit point from Draconic Resilience, which is good because we only went with Con 14, and so this is going to get us an extra hit point. We're still pretty fragile, but we'll take it. And we get Draconic Spells. Draconic Spells are really good, and you get a lot of them, which is fantastic because a sorcerer gets hardly any spell preps, so to add just a giant stack of very good useful ones is pretty awesome. Very impressed with Draconic Spells. The first one is not so great. Chromatic Orb is a weak single target blast. It's rarely relevant or cast for us, but you know, it's something. Eventually we aren't going to have any first level blasts, and so to have one kind of built in at least gives us something. We get Command, which is a lot better than Chromatic Orb. Command is one of the better spells in the game, so very happy to add it. The drop option is actually quite sneaky good in cases where an enemy has your ally grappled. You can force them to drop your ally, lose their turn, and then the ally is good to go. And it's an amazing upcast in the right situation, like dropping a 4th level command and commanding 4 creatures. That's pretty good control, so we're happy to add Command. We get Alter Self, which it's niche, but adding a swim speed can sometimes be handy, right? We get Dragon's Breath, which can be solid if we pair it with an ally's familiar or summon or something, because we don't have a familiar or a summon. Although, if the DM allows you to, you could use a mount or a mastiff or a pet or something, but talk to them because sometimes they would want you to make animal handling checks and they're not really trained for combat and yada yada. If you can do so, that would be great. And if you do have a suitable target, Dragon's Breath is a pretty useful way of spending your concentration, at least in these lower levels. It's also a bonus action cast, and that's pretty nice because then we can also combine it with an offensive cantrip on our turn. So good action economy. Dragon's Breath can be pretty good. And we are adding Shatter, which is going to be fun as our first decent AoE blast. Getting some distance is very helpful, whereas Burning Hands we had to be right up front, so that isn't so great for us since we're so fragile. And then we are picking up Scorching Ray, and this is a huge addition for us. We are going to be featuring this spell throughout our career, and it's really nice with a combo that we are going to add at next level and another little buff at level 6. So this is the spell that we are going to be spamming. It's going to be consuming the majority of our level 2 slots. We might even upcast it frequently, and we are going to want to make scrolls of this when it's affordable so that we always have a bajillion Scorching Rays on hand. It gives us really, really nice single target blast damage. Level 4 is a big one for us because we get our first feat, and we are going with Fey Touched. So first of all, that is going to bump our Charisma to 18, so that's going to affect all of our casting stats, but also bump our AC to a pretty solid 17 now at level 4. And we get 2 critical spell adds, Misty Step, which is obviously one of the best spells in the game. It's just a critical maneuverability option, and it relieves pressure on our spell preps, because we were going to take this anyway, but to get it through the feat is very helpful. And it is a free cast once a day. So that means it doesn't take a slot, and that means that we can cast it and cast a leveled spell with our action. So really great to have this in our back pocket. And then we are also going to be adding Hunter's Mark, and that is going to be able to combo with Scorching Ray to really buff that spell and give us quite impressive single target damage. Again, a 1 time a day free cast, so we can actually cast this with our bonus action and then still Scorching Ray at least once a day. But also there will be cases where you've already cast it and then are just using a bonus action to move it. And if you're just using your bonus action to move it, again, you will be able to use your action to combo it with Scorching Ray. So that is a really nice little combo that works well for us. Hunter's Mark will also give us a little extra damage on our cantrips, so that doesn't hurt. We're a blaster and we're trying to accumulate damage. We are going to be adding Featherfall so that we can use our fly speed without fear of falling. We're going to be adding Mirror Image as a very strong defense against attacks in an emergency. Mirror Image got a real improvement in 2024. It is a solid precast option if your DM is amenable to 1-minute spells. And I honestly don't expect to spend too many of our actual slots on this. Those are going to be reserved for Scorching Ray, but I do want to have it on our spells known so that we can make scrolls of it. And just make 1 or 2 scrolls of Mirror Image, keep them in your back pocket for an emergency, and I think that will be sufficient. We are now dropping Witch Bolt, because the damage of it is no longer quite as impressive at level 4 as it was at level 1. And we have Scorching Ray now, so that is our preferred single target blast. We do still have Chromatic Orb if we really need a level 1 blast, but I think we'll be fine with just the Scorching Rays. And Witch Bolt uses concentration, whereas now that we have Hunter's Mark will be preferred for our concentration. So we dropped Witch Bolt, and it was a good spell for us, but now we are ready to move beyond it. Moving into level 5, a big level for us. We add Sorceress Restoration, which is a nice add to the 2024 Sorcerer kit, right? It's like more sorcery points. Awesome. And then we get a whole bunch of spells. Another cantrip. We're going to be taking Sorceress Burst to get another attack cantrip with a variable energy type. So now we can pretty much evade any immunities and resistances and such. And it has an exploding die. Exploding dice are fun, so I like Sorceress Burst. Then for our Draconic spells, we get Fear, which is a solid control option, and we get Fly, which is an elite maneuverability option. So a couple of really good Draconic spells here. Then, of course, the main thing that we're excited about is that we get Fireball and Lightning Bolt. These 2 iconic and classic AoE spells, which are amazing. We have been really looking forward to this, and man, we can't wait to cast our first Fireball. So now that we have Fireball, we're going to have like a pretty awesome couple of first turns. Like first turn bonus action innate sorcery, and then Fireball. And then second turn bonus action Hunter's Mark, and action Scorching Ray to pick off anybody who's left. We are blasting quite nicely at level 5. We are also going to add Slow. Slow is a great spell. It is a wonderful control option, and it has a lot of RP synergy because we are role-playing a Gold Dragon Descendant, and Gold Dragons have that weakening breath. Our slow is going to come out as like a gaseous breath weapon, and it's going to have really cool mechanical benefit and RP synergy. And unfortunately, we have to drop Expeditious Retreat. We just have better maneuverability options right now in Fly, and we have lots better options for our concentration, so we just don't have room for it. Level 5 is where I expect players to start getting their first uncommon magic items. So a few items to target at this level. Definitely get a Bloodwell Vial +1 when it's published. It's not currently available in the 2024 Dungeon Master Guide, but eventually it will be republished, and when it does, you want to get one, because that's the Sorcerer buff item. Then Circlet of Blasting, an Enspelled Staff with Hex or Hunter's Mark, a Pearl of Power, Wand of the War Mage +1, Winged Boots, and Weapon of Warning. I think all have great synergy with this build. That said, don't turn down strong options that don't necessarily have great synergy, like a Cloak of Protection. I don't know how much choice you're going to get as far as items go at your table, but these are just ones to target, but definitely take what you can get. Do see my deep dive video on top 5 uncommons for more information about my opinion on the items. And do note that we are using just the core rules, so we are only using the 2024 published items. There are going to be a bunch of dragon-themed items republished in the future, and obviously all of those are ones that we are going to be closely looking at because of our role-playing thing. Moving into level 6, we get Elemental Affinity, which is going to be fire for us. Pretty obvious call since we're a Gold Dragon Descendant, but fire is also the most useful of the elemental resistances, and we get that as a resistance, and it gets a little damage rider, and there are more fire-based blast spells than any other element type, including our signatures. Scorching Ray, Fireball, Firebolt, all of these are fire-based, so we are going Elemental Affinity Fire, and we're going to get that little damage bump on all of those. We're going to be adding Counterspell as a staple caster defense, which is different in 2024. It's a con save now, and that might look bad, but on the other hand, I was informed that the monsters have been somewhat normalized on their con save, so it's not as good as it was in 2014. So we should be okay attacking the con save every now and then. And Counterspell is just too good. It would give us another reaction, which we don't have a huge array of reactions. And so it's just, yeah, I wanted to add Counterspell here. And then we are also adding Sleet Storm, which is one of my favorite spells. It's a great control option, especially against casters. It has been nerfed a bit in 2024 because the 2014 version had an enormous area, and it's much smaller in 2024, but it's still pretty solid, I think. See my deep dive video on Sleet Storm for more info. Again, the link will be in the description. And we drop Burning Hands. We needed the prep. Burning Hands has been dead weight for us since we got way better AoE options, so it's time to drop it. Moving into level 7, we get Sorcery Incarnate, and this is an amazing add for us. Being able to use both Careful and Transmuted spell on the same cast is going to be amazing. It makes us even better as casters. And now we're going to pretty much have Innate Sorcery always available. Remember, it's only 2 times a day, so now being able to put it up just based on sorcery points is going to be fantastic. Especially for us, because remember, we don't have a huge draw on our sorcery points from our meta magics, so we are going to be able to get Innate Sorcery up quite reliably, and that's amazing for our build. Then we get a couple more Draconic spells. First of all, we get Arcane Eye. And Arcane Eye is a really great terms of engagement buff that allows you to scout your enemies and get a lot of intel on them. But I will say it's better in theory than in practice, because in practice, most doors don't actually have 1-inch gaps, so it's not able to really penetrate most doors. And I've also found that a lot of DMs just hate that sort of thing, and so deploy it with caution, but it's a nice add theoretically. And then we get Charm Monster, which we're never going to use that. Maybe like at level 17 when we pick up Subtle, but okay, we added Charm Monster. When we make our actual choices, we are taking Dimension Door as a must-add maneuverability option. I'm a huge fan of Dimension Door. See my deep dive video on Dimension Door for more reasons about why I love it so much, and always add it when I can. And we are adding Wall of Fire as our first persistent AoE option. So Wall of Fire is a really good spell, and because it is persistent, it's amazing to combo with allies that have push abilities and grapple abilities, or some other ability that allows them to move the enemy. There's a lot of those in 2024, and by having the Wall of Fire that you can put up, it's something that you can just get many iterations of damage if you work with your teammates. And it will block vision, which has some good tactical benefits. So see my deep dive video on wall spells for more information about how great Wall of Fire is, but we're very happy to add it here. And we are going to have to drop Shatter. We just need the prep, and Shatter has outlived its usefulness for us. We have much better AoE options and the slots to use them now. Moving into level 8, we are going to use our ASI to max our Charisma. We now have a Charisma of 20, so that maxes out our spell casting, and our AC is good now. We have an 18 AC plus shield. We are fairly survivable, and again, we didn't have to dip for that, so really nice part of the subclass. We get to add one spell, and we are going to add Polymorph. That is going to represent the dragon's ability to shape change, and we're mostly going to want to use it on ourselves. In terms of a role-playing option, I think turning ourselves into a T-Rex that is skinned as a dragon would be hella fun, and we do want to try to not cast it on allies, but it is available if an ally's like on 1 hit point and you need to get an emergency heal. That's one great thing about Polymorph. You can always throw it on someone who's on death's door and they get, safe because they get a big infusion of hit points, and they're still like really good offensively. Moving into level 9, we get 5th level spells and our proficiency bump. So a couple of draconic spells. We get Legend Lore, which I love Legend Lore, man. I think this is a really good spell. It offers really superlative intel and utility, and it's just a really nice non-combat add for us. And we get Summon Dragon, which is fantastic. It's a really good summon that sorcerers don't normally get access to, and we don't have huge draws on our concentration. I think we're going to be able to cast this pretty regularly. And it will allow us to acquire yet another resistance, so a 4th resistance at this point. Even though it has been nerfed a little bit in 2024, because the 2014 version allowed you to get exotic energy resistances, and this one doesn't, but it's still pretty good. And it has a 1-hour duration, so we can aggressively precast this. I am very happy to add Summon Dragon here. I think it's got great role-playing synergy and is mechanically very strong. And then we are going to be adding a couple of spells. Firstly, Cone of Cold to supplement Fireball and Lightning Bolt. It does more damage. It hits the con save instead of the dex save, so it allows us to diversify our attacks somewhat. And it has a potentially bigger area of effect, because if you're flying, you can get a 30-foot radius out of the 60-foot cone, as opposed to the 20-foot radius of the Fireball, so you can get more targets. Although, keep in mind, you need to have like a 60-foot ceiling in order to use your fly speed to get up there. But it's still an option, and Cone of Cold is a really nice add for us. And then we are also going to add Teleportation Circle, because it's just a travel utility spell that the party is often going to need, and it's going to be a placeholder for us because we're going to add Teleport later, and this is something that is similar, but we can drop when the times comes. 9th level is the level at which I expect PCs to start acquiring rare magic items. So a few to target that have great role-playing synergy with this build. The Bloodwell Vial +2, again once it's published. Bracers of Defense to bump our AC. Daern's Instant Fortress to give us cover anytime we want it. Really great item. An Enspelled Staff filled with Scorching Ray or Fireball. A Ring of Spell Storing. A Rod of Rulership. A Wand of Fireball or Lightning Bolt, and Wand of the War Mage +2. All of those I think are really good for our build, but of course don't turn down a strong item just because it lacks synergy. Like, who's going to turn down a Cape of the Mountebank, right? Again, see my deep dive video on the top 5 rares in the game for more of my opinion about the best items in 2024. Then moving into level 10, we get a couple more meta magics, and we are going to be taking Extended Spell to get advantage on concentration checks, because we don't have Warcaster and we don't really have room in the build to add Warcaster. So this is going to be a nice way for us to get advantage on our concentration checks without having to make those investments. We can also bump the duration on our Summon Dragon up to 2 hours, which is really good. And so I'm very happy to add Extended Spell here, but do note that you could opt for Seeking Spell here. I almost took Seeking Spell instead, but I decided that we already have a really good hit chance, and I would rather just have that advantage on concentration. But you could opt for Seeking Spell here. And then we added Quicken Spell in order to enhance our blast output. This is another very important add for us. At the very least, it's going to allow us to tack on a cantrip to our attack sequence when we just need a little bit more damage. But more importantly, it combos really nicely with the Net and Sunbeam, which we are picking up at next level. So I'll talk about that more in a minute, but to be able to bonus action cast and leave your action free for the Net or for a Sunbeam or for something else, you know, your action is quite versatile. That is really amazing. So very happy to add Quicken Spell here. Then we get another cantrip. We are going to add Prestidigitation as a decent utility cantrip, but feel free to add something else. It doesn't really matter at this point which cantrip we take. And then we are going to add Seeming for just 1 level. At this 1 level, it might help us a little bit, but we're dropping it at the next level, so it's more or less of a placeholder. It doesn't really matter what you take. Take something else for this level if you want. Moving into level 11, we get 6th level spells, and we are going to be adding Chain Lightning, which gives us our highest damage AoE blast. This is the biggest number that you see on the damage column, and it ignores friendly fire built in. So we're not going to have to spend a sorcery point on Careful Spell with it. So it's really nice to add Chain Lightning here. And then we are also adding Sunbeam. And Sunbeam is a sweet AoE blast that lasts for multiple rounds. It does occupy your concentration, but it's worth it. It has an awesome blindness rider, so not only damage, but also some control. And it's radiant damage. So we've been using elemental damage up until now. It's nice to get a radiant option. Do note that if you cast it with Quicken Spell as a bonus action, you can get 2 Sunbeams on the same turn, right? You can use your bonus action to cast it, and then use your magic action to proc it again to get 2 Sunbeams on the same round. And then after the casting turn, you can use your magic action to manifest another Sunbeam, and then also cast with your bonus action if you quicken a spell. So that's a really awesome combo, Quickened plus Sunbeam, that we're very happy to add. Then moving into level 12, we get an ASI. We are adding Mage Slayer to mostly help with our weak mental saves, but also because Concentration Breaker is an awesome combo with Scorching Ray, right? If we really need to break somebody's concentration, we can upcast like 5 Scorching Rays at them with a 3rd level spell, and they're going to have to make 5 concentration checks, all of them at disadvantage with Concentration Breaker. So that's a really nice little wrinkle to this build. We are super good at breaking concentration. So that's what allowed Mage Slayer to have the edge, in my opinion. I almost went with Resilient Wisdom here. And if you want to, you can do that. It is going to be a more consistent mental defense for us. But I like Mage Slayer because it's not only a defense, but it offers that extra offensive Concentration Breaker. Moving into level 13, we get 7th level spells. And we are actually going to take a 6th level spell here, Odaluk's Freezing Sphere, because I couldn't quite fit it in at level 11, but I really wanted to add it because it's our first 60-foot radius AoE option. That is an enormous area that can encompass a whole bunch of enemies, and we have Careful Spell, so we are going to be able to manage that humongous area without incurring friendly fire. It also has that like delayed blast option, which can be cool if you have time to prep and set it up correctly, and that way you can create like a big Nova, including your cast AoE spell. And it does have special effects in water, which are niche, but I have actually seen that come into play, and when it does, it's pretty awesome. So really nice to add Odaluk's Freezing Sphere here. And then we are also going to add Teleport as an elite travel utility option, which is going to allow us to drop Teleportation Circle. I am not generally a fan of the 7th level spell options for sorcerers, so that's why I went with the 6th and with the utility option. that's fine. We've got everything that we really need, so we don't need to add a 7th level blast here. I do expect at level 13 for your PC to start acquiring very rares. So a few very rare items that I think have build synergy with the Gold Kobold is, of course, the Bloodwell Vial +3, once it's published. Also the Enspelled Staff, full of Cold of Cold. Staff of Power, that is the main one that you want. The Staff of Power is one of the best items in the game. It has tons of build synergy with this. Get a Staff of Power if you can. You want a Tome of Leadership and Influence, obviously. Buff that Charisma. And a Wand of the War Mage +3. As always, don't turn down any strong items that don't necessarily offer build synergy, like a Candle of Invocation. You're not going to say no to that, right? Moving into level 14, we get our Dragon Wings, which is awesome. We've been waiting for this. It's a great level 14 ability. It's going to buff our fly speed by doubling it from 30 to 60. It's going to give us more uses, and it has a longer duration than Celestial Revelation. So very nice to add. We've been getting by on the 1 time a day fly speed so far, but now at level 14, we can fly anytime we want. Awesome. Moving into level 15, we get 8th level spells. And so are adding Incendiary Cloud to give us a wicked persistent AoE option. I mean, it literally does twice as much damage as Wall of Fire. And so similar to Wall of Fire, it's amazing to combo with allies who can push and grapple and otherwise move enemies into it. And it is heavily obscured. So heavy obscurement is often very helpful in this game. So really nice to add Incendiary Cloud as a persistent option. And then we are also adding Sunburst to give us a non-persistent AoE option. It's a stronger 60-foot radius option than Odaluk's Freezing Sphere because it does more damage. It's got a better damage type in Radiant, and it has that Blindness Rider, which is fantastic. So very happy to add Sunburst here. And unfortunately, we had to drop Sleet Storm in order to add both of these. So too bad. I do like Sleet Storm, but at this level, we've got better options with our higher level spells. Moving into level 16, we get another feat, and here we're going to be adding Resilient Wisdom, just to give us a chance to make the crazy high T4 wisdom saves that we're going to have to face. And combined with Mage Slayer, that's going to give us decent mental saves from this point forward. Moving into level 17, we get new meta magics and 9th level spells. So we are first going to add Empowered Spell, just to enhance our blasts, kind of an obvious one. And we are adding Subtle Spell, which is going to have a couple of benefits for us. One, it is going to allow us to evade potential counter spells. It's also going to allow for some sneaky social casting, so maybe we'll be able to use Charm Monster now. Then we are, of course, adding Meteor Swarm as our first 9th level spell. Super obvious and super amazing. Meteor Swarm is way, way, way better than any other blast. It's super awesome to add for us, and we can't wait to cast it for the first time. I gotta say, as a player, I have seen Meteor Swarm deployed to devastating effect, so I can't wait to do it myself. Level 17 is also the level at which I think characters are going to start acquiring legendary items, and so a couple of items with build synergy that you might want to target are, again, an Enspelled Staff, which we've been trying to get all throughout our career. If we can get one with Chain Lightning or Sunburst, yeah, that would be amazing. And the Robe of the Archmagi. So again, don't turn down anything that lacks synergy. Cloak of Invisibility is awesome on any build, but Robe of the Archmagi and the Spelled Staff I think would be really good for us. Then moving into level 18, we get our Dragon Companion. And this is a really nice little subclass ability. Makes Summon Dragon even better. We can get a free cast of it, so we can cast it and then combo it with a Quicken spell and get 2 leveled spells out there. And no concentration. That is obviously elite. You know, we can get our Sunbeam going at the same time as Summon Dragon. So yeah, that is really awesome and got a ton of role-playing synergy. It's going to be a lot of fun to roll out Dragon Companion when the time comes. And as our second 9th level spell, we are adding Wish. Because, I mean, this is Dungeons & Dragons, right? I don't need to explain why we want Wish. Moving into level 19, we get our Epic Boon. And I went with the Boon of Spell Recall. That is going to bump our dex to 18, which is really nice. Get that little bump to AC and initiative. And on average, this is going to get us an additional 3 spell slots. Could be anywhere from levels 1 through 4. but on average an additional 3 spell slots, and that's awesome. For a blaster, you can never have enough spell slots. That said, pick what you like. There's a ton of amazing options amongst the epic boons. I almost went with True Seeing for the role-playing synergy, but there are lots of good ones, the Boon of Fate, and pick whichever one you like. And then we are adding Plane Shift with our next spell prep. We don't need any more Knights. We've already got Meteor Swarm and Wish, and we don't really need anything other than that since we only have 1 Ninth level slot. So we are going to fill in some of the holes in our repertoire, and I think every caster should know Plane Shift if they can take it. It's just too good of utility. Now that we have both Teleport for our plane and Plane Shift to get off plane, we are able to take our party anywhere that we need to go. And then finally at level 20, we get Arcane Apotheosis. And man, this is really good. A free meta magic option on every spell? Yes, please. That is going to save us a bajillion sorcery points. And as a sorcerer, I think that's one of the best capstones in the game. Really, really nice. And we get 1 more prep. We are going to add True Seeing for the role-playing synergy, because high-level dragons have True Sight, and now we do too. Of course, you can take anything you like. I think maybe Sleet Storm coming back could be an option, but I think True Seeing here makes a lot of sense. So that is the Gold Kobold, my Draconic Sorcerer Blaster build. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and regardless, thank you so much for watching. This has been Bill Bronze and Dragons. I'm your host, Bill Bron Bafflestone. See you next time.